Let's explore. There we go. Let's explore how crankiness and illness could correlate as we meditate like a Jedi. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. Its title is Compelling, Deepening Sense of Self. Let's read together. I recently had a bit of a breakdown where I started getting angry at people, pushing boundaries, and dragging me into their crap. I started feeling like I've lost my identity, and at the same time putting in boundaries or putting up boundaries. That's tough to know. I then focused in doing inner work, such as meditation. Let's see if I can't fix that. Inner work, such as meditation. Oopsie, try that again. That didn't work out well. Working out, showers for grounding, etc. And now I'm sick, had a head cold, and now a chest infection. I'm wondering if purging can make us sick. Sometimes I feel like I'm healed, confident, and grounded with a sure sense of self. And other times, I'm back in my old ways. No sense of self. Should I keep trying to deepen my sense of self? These are all compelling questions. Let us begin with some broad brushstrokes. So, I'm going to share examples from my own life. My goal is to make me more relatable to you and not necessarily feed my self-importance. And if that comes across as the second, not the first, I sincerely apologize. Personally, I have many disabilities, all going at the same time. And I found that there's a wonderful term used amongst the chronically ill. And it's known as out of spoons, or low on spoons, or low bandwidth. Sometimes our body and brain are so fatigued, so exhausted, that they do not possess the resourcefulness to deal with others whose behaviors are deleterious or harmful to our body or mind. The more exhausted we are, the less we can tolerate without doing great injury to ourselves. This is not because we have an exaggerated sense of self. This is a survival instinct. Some of our primary drives is to quite bluntly live long enough to procreate. We cannot do that if we fall prey to infection, be it bacterial, fungal, viral, or the like. And so there is a mechanism within all complex animals on this planet to withdraw when ill. withdrawal is not always possible, or should I say, physical, circumstantial withdrawal is not always possible. And so sometimes a secondary survival instinct is to metaphorically withdraw. So, for instance, you're in a structure, there's no place to retreat, but you withdraw from the communal activity, not because you feel you're better than everybody else, just simply because you do not have the bandwidth of the spoons or the energy or the immunal resourcefulness to do otherwise. That does not make us a bad person. An injured dog is more likely to snap than a healthy dog. A sick and exhausted human is more likely to assert their boundaries. The one who is feeling in the pink of health. Forgive the racist term, I do not mean to be that way. And so quite often we must remember that correlation does not ensure causation. Just because we began asserting boundaries did not make us sick. It could be quite possibly the other way around, that because we were getting sick, before we started presenting with overt mucousy symptoms, we instinctually strove to withdraw from stressors as much as was possible. And when physical withdrawal was no longer possible, boundaries were either set up or strengthened, especially against those who possessed neither the love nor the wisdom to respect others' boundaries, for they are draining and a danger to those whose immune systems are compromised. That's very, very important to understand. If we meditate regularly, and if we meditate correctly, in other words, relying less on the prefrontal cortex to meditate and more on the autonomic nervous system to meditate, then we will grow in our ability to flow, to surf the present moment. And sometimes a part of surfing the present moment is asserting our boundaries. When we are sick, when we are infected, we're not going to feel like ourselves, because we are not ourselves. Our body and our central nervous system are completely out of whack, and to a certain degree, fighting for their survival. So in times of illness, when you don't feel quite yourself, that is incredibly accurate, and it is by no means an indictment. A Brit more clever than myself once said that America and England are two countries separated by a common language. That is true universally. And many times there are certain individuals in different religions, different spiritual systems, who have the same goals, but they're using different terminology to describe their goals. And that can cause great confusion. So, for instance, a Hindu might talk about self-actualization, where a Buddhist might talk about selflessness, while both are talking about the same thing, just using different words. The more we mature on the spiritual path, any path that's grounded in peace and love and wisdom, the more we are going to be able to plug into visceral wisdom, We might call it listening to the whispers of the Dharmakaya. We might call it dancing with the dakinis. We might call it walking in the spirit. We might refer to it as plugging into our higher self. It's the same phenomena either way. In a Hebrew scripture, there is a passage that reads, "To everything there is a season." And even the mamas and papas sang about that in the 60s. There is a time when it's ideal for walking meditation. There is a time when it is ideal for sitting meditation. There is a time when it is ideal to study. There's a time when it is ideal to rest. There is a time when it is ideal to recreate. Sometimes vigorously, sometimes gently and passively. It is never, quote-unquote, unspiritual to flow, not from scattered spontaneity, but from centered spontaneity. One of the beautiful payoffs of a healthy meditation practice is that we get better and better at non-neurotically, non-narcissistically flowing from centered spontaneity. Now, here's a caveat that is truly annoying. Brace yourself. When we ask, am I in centered spontaneity? The answer is no. When we ask, am I in neurosis? Most likely yes. But it's easily remedied. When you physically feel up to it, meditate with me. I'm here every 12 hours, give or take, every day on YouTube. I've got hundreds and hundreds of live streams saved on YouTube, all of them free. All of them will teach you how to meditate easily and efficiently and gently based on where you're at right now. You don't have to be a spiritual Olympian to be able to use these techniques. These are for common folk like you and I. So I use some big words. I ask you to meditate not from your prefrontal cortex, but from your autonomic nervous system. I'd like to illustrate what that means. I'm going to press button 5. So this is a side view of our brain. This is the back of our head. This is the front of our head. This is the top of our head. This is the roof of our mouth. Our prefrontal cortex is lovely. It's very good at doing math and making comparisons and contrasts and problem solving. It's really, really good at that. But it did not evolve to shepherd our limbic system. It did not evolve. And it's wonderful to use a hammer to pound nails. It's dreadful to use a crystal goblet to try to pound nails. Nothing wrong with nails. You just got to use the right tool for the right job. When we receive bad instruction and we're taught to actively concentrate or actively analyze, we were going to find ourselves using such structures as our medial prefrontal cortex or our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Using our prefrontal cortex thusly, fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging studies, will show our amygdala lighting up, which functions as the seat of aggression and fear. If we persist in abusing and overworking our prefrontal cortex, we will begin presenting with symptoms of depression, all of which will drain your immune system. But there's some good news. There are regions, there are organelles, for want of a better term, There are components of our central nervous system that are ideal for wrangling the squirrely emotions of our limbic system. Let us begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing our sympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the middle third of our spinal cord. This thing has evolved to help us perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. It has evolved to help us perceive all manner of things, including sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, as well as emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. This can seem very overwhelming. Therefore, let us turn our attention to meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we access this parasympathetic nervous system ensconced within the bottom third as well as the upper third of that same spinal cord. This bad boy has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. Now you might say, well, if perception and release are hardwired to our inhalation and exhalation, why should I bother with mindfulness and meditation? Why should I bother with walking meditation or sitting meditation? And the answer is quite simple. In a word, Urkel. Our brain, this three-ring shit show of a brain, can act like Urkel. Sweet, clever, but clumsy as hell. So here's a really, really cool thing. Here's a simple solution to a complex problem. During our inhalation, let me rephrase this. When we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, our brain begins to actively cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system, facilitating the perception that is also known as mindfulness. Similarly, when we silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, this exact same brain begins cooperating with our parasympathetic nervous system in a way that supports the physical relaxation and the mental release that is known as meditation. And due to the gift of having a complex brain, we have to go the extra mile and play with these one-word silent recitations, not in a mystical or magical way, but just to coordinate the various organelles of our central nervous system. Kind of like learning how to pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time. It takes a little bit of doing at first. The fringe benefit of this is that the more we work with our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, for instance, 5 minutes or so every 12 hours, the less our amygdala lights up. And the more this thing lights up, this thing that looks kind of like a catcher's mitt, this thing that the big kids refer to as the anterior cingulate gyrus, this thing that functions like the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. This is why the greatest Dzogchen Lamas of Tibet have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. When our choices and our utterances and our deeds flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, that is when our choices and our utterances and our deeds and our life overall can be its most beautiful. It's most loving. It's most wise. Why do we meditate? To process the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Why do we meditate? So that we can flow from love's centered spontaneity. Why do we meditate? To become the person that our dog already thinks we are. So, Jared, thank you for tuning in. Yes, meditation can be, not only can meditation be explained scientifically, but I just did. So if I was you and you wanted an answer to that, I would drag your progress bar all the way to the left and watch from the beginning. I do look forward to practicing with you together as a team right now in real time after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. I think it could be great fun tonight if together as a team we played with the latest iteration of love and the 3 marks of reality. Let's see here. So Jared wrote, let me click the appropriate button. I think it's button 8. So Jared wrote, I've noticed that I've lately been able to go longer periods of time without taking a breath. Could meditation be the reason? Perhaps. I wouldn't recommend pursuing breath retention if I was you. So let's turn to science. I'm going to hit button 5. Do my best to find a diagram of the brain. So this is the brainstem, and in this region right here, approximately, we have a device or organelle known as the medulla oblongata, which of course reminds me of a chorus from a Beatles song. Anyway, this is the part of our brain that has evolved to coordinate our respiration. When we try to manage our respiration with our prefrontal cortex, we're using it for something that it was not evolved to do. Prefrontal cortex was evolved for computation and analysis and contraring and contrasting and mathematics and all this really composition and all this fun stuff. When we use this in lieu of this, it creates an unnecessary burden on the functioning of our brain. We're better off treating our breath the way a piano student treats a metronome. The piano student does not micromanage the metronome. They let the teacher do that for them. And so similarly, when we notice our body breathing in, whether that breath is long or short or deep or shallow, our response is the same, which is to silently and mentally recite the universal label, this. When we notice our body breathing out, whether the exhalation is forceful or gentle, superficial or deep, quick or slow, subtle or coarse, our response is the same, to silently and mentally recite the universal response, which is ease, the verb ease. There are many spiritual systems those that promote being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel will have as strive to control our body and our emotions and our thoughts. Whereas spiritual systems that promote being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind will emphasize just enjoying the show, remembering treating our meditation as a theater, remembering that our role is not that of producer, director, playwright, or thespian. Our role is member of the audience, just to sit there and enjoy the show, whether the show pertains to the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, or the grotesque. That's our job. Now, there's always going to be people, in fact, a majority of people, according to Sturgeon's Law, are going to tell us, hey man, be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, join the bandwagon, don't be left out. But you'll always have a minority of folks like the Buddha or the Christ or the sage saying, I think you'll be happier upon the path of flexibility, upon the path of being laid back. I would tend to agree with them. I hope that helps. So, like, I've had the very good fortune at various times in my life to visit the Griffith Park Planetarium. And in it they have a ginormous pendulum. And it moves with great regularity, but ponderously and slow. Similarly, we, like a great pendulum, are going to swing from gentle contemplations to gentle meditations, that we might most efficiently meet the needs of our central nervous system. Let us begin by bringing the mental into the path of love and the three marks of existence, beginning with dukkha, or stress. Please chant with me. Each of us has experienced the stress of not getting all mental needs met. How we want, when we want, for as long as we want, if at all. So we're going to take all these syllables and squish them down to just 6 syllables, which we're going to divide between our inhalation and our exhalation. This is a rhetorical question. It is not our job to answer it. It is only our job to recite it silently, mentally, and passively. Let's see here. It'd be interesting to see a video about how the universe formed. Well, fortunately, there are a great many videos already on YouTube about cosmology. And I would recommend cosmology more than metaphysics. The Buddha was less concerned about metaphysics than he was about simply helping folks to master the Eightfold Path. We turn now to metta, or love. Please chant with me. Since we are not alone in our frustrations, we could also long that others' mental needs also be met. So, again, we can squeeze all this down into just 6 syllables divided between our inhalation and our exhalation. It's not our job to actively visualize or actively emote or actively believe. We're just playing with these words silently, mentally, passively, in coordination with our inhalation and our exhalation. We turn now to Anika impermanence, observing the coming and going of mental phenomena. Help us to see that ever-changing one and all there is nothing permanent to grasp. Let us turn now to the frequently misunderstood anatta, or no self. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever mental phenomena we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less like our identity, as if it simply did not define us. Let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and release. Just like we mentioned during the opening lesson, as we inhale, we can silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, and as we do, we can kick back and watch the antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, or imagines. As we exhale, and silently as well as mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease, we can relax into mind's non-graspable nature. together as a team, it could be great fun if now let us bring, whoops, that was my chin. Now let us bring the interpersonal into the path of love and the three marks of existence. Let us continue with dukkha. Each of us has experienced the stress of not getting our interpersonal needs met. How we want when we want for as long as we want, if at all. Since we are not alone in our frustrations, we can also long that others' interpersonal needs also be met. Observing the coming and going of interpersonal phenomena, help us to see that ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. Let us turn our attention to anatta. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever interpersonal phenomena we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less like our identity, as if it simply did not define us. And now let us return to bringing whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and release. Let us bring the physical into the path of love and the three marks of existence. Beginning with dukkha, stress. Each of us has experienced the stress of not getting our physical needs met. How we want when we want for as long as we want, if at all. We turn now to mate the love. Since we are not alone in our frustrations, we could also long that others' physical needs also be met. And we turn to anicca, impermanence. Feeling the coming and going of physical phenomena. Help us to feel that ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. And now a bit of the old anatta, no self, or not self. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever physical phenomena we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less like our identity, as if it simply did not define us. Again, let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and release. Let us bring the circumstantial into the path of love and the three marks of existence, beginning with dukkha, stress. Each of us has experienced the stress of not getting all circumstantial needs met. How we want when we want, for as long as we want, if at all. Let's turn our attention to metta, loving kindness. Since we are not alone in our frustrations, we could also long that other circumstantial needs also be met. Let us turn our attention to anicca, impermanence. Observing the coming and going of circumstantial phenomena. Help us see that ever-changing one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. Let us turn our attention to anatta, not self. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever circumstantial phenomena we notice during our previous inhalation could feel less like our identity, as if it simply did not define us. We come to this evening's final silent meditation, or I should say second to the last silent meditation, where we bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and release. Let's chant. In our compassion may we long to free all beings from the toxic tyranny of ever. Hating, craving, and clinging, metaphorically known as the three mental poisons. In our pragmatism may all liberation of all others be fueled by our reliance on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students, described by the metaphor of the three wish-fulfilling jewels. So, having sat for the better part of the previous 75 minutes, you might find it refreshing to join me for a dozen or so Tibetan-style Buddha bows, which are delightfully calisthenic. If you don't want to, you don't have to. May we free all through the three jewels. 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 Let us rest. Let us seal our practice by percussively chanting loving wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all minds clear yet impermanent be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind. May all relationships resounding yet impermanent be as loving as a Buddha's speech. May all bodies sensual yet impermanent be as beautifully healthy as a real or imagined Deva's form. May all circumstances appearing yet impermanent be as safe and abundant as a real or imagined Devi's land. May every meditation teacher truly understand the Buddha's teachings and practice master as well as teach them generously, lovingly, and wisely in the manner of centered spontaneity. May all these meditation teachers spontaneously receive generous patrons, enthusiastic students, as well as devoted apprentices. And may many Dharma centers likewise be successfully planted, nurtured, and supported. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 hours or so, 10 and a quarter hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.